Hey everybody, Bob Babbitt here. This is Challenged Athletes Live. Seriously, one of our favorite athletes of all time, three-time Paralympian and a new author. Mr. Joe McCarthy joins us. Joey, how you doing?
Great, Bob. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Always a pleasure. First of all, show us the book. What the heck? When did the book
Yeah,
come
dude.
out?
So the book's called Trying Times, Stories of Tragedy and Triumph from Triathletes Around the World. So 24 of us wrote the book. I'm a contributing author, so I have my story in it. And it's pretty cool. Valerie Haller is the lead author. It was her concept. So she's on the cover, but it came out really awesome. So I'm very excited. I'm donating the proceeds to the Challenged Athletes Foundation for my Community Challenge fundraiser. So also excited, really excited about that.
And you sold 100 copies already.
Yeah, just over 100 are going out. So they're all behind the computer over here on the table. I didn't realize how much of an assembly line I'd have to put together, but
Yeah.
packaging the books and, signing them and everything. So it's been a lot of fun over the weekend.
So you're living in Imperial Beach, 16 years old, surfing down at the pier, I'm guessing every day, maybe twice a day. One day things go a little awry. Talk a little about what happened that day. And we're talking 1996.
96, right. So I'm 25 years in to this journey. So I was just surfing with my friends. It was really small and shallow, just south of the pier in Imperial Beach. And we're out just having a good time, not really paying attention. And where I paddled in south, came north to went to go from like 3-inch surf to like 6-inch surf, and catch some waves next to the pier, and it just hit a sandbar coming off my board out of nowhere. So it was really a fluke accident. So hit the bottom head first and shattered my neck and 2 vertebrae into 23 pieces, and just went into a struggle to stay alive because I would have drowned. So I just went into survival mode, found my surfboard, started using the little mobility that I had to get myself onto my back because I was face down, to get help from someone.
And then you get to the beach and get to the hospital. At that point, had you known anybody in a wheelchair? Did you have any sense of what your life would become?
No. So I was the first person I'd ever met in a wheelchair. And Steve Cowell was the second guy that I'd ever met in a wheelchair because he was my rec therapist at Sharp. I remember that day like it was yesterday. He came rolling into my rehab room at Sharp Rehab. And I just thought, holy moly, this guy's in a wheelchair. And then I went, holy moly, I'm in a wheelchair. I better get used to this. And I just got going from there.
And in terms of finding sport again, because you were a swimmer. You swimmer.
Yeah, a water polo player.
Yeah. Getting back in the sport and finding it, because there's a huge difference between being a paraplegic and a quadriplegic. You're a
Correct.
Quadriplegic. Talk a little bit about, for our viewers who might not know the difference, talk a little about what your challenges are compared to someone who's a para.
Sure. So para is really 2, and quad is 4. So para meaning you broke your back, your damage is to 2 limbs, meaning wherever your injury is from there down, generally paras have full motion of their arms and their hands. So when they're working, they've got full arm and hand motion. I don't. I'm a really high functioning quadriplegic, meaning I broke my neck. And you can have guys anywhere from Christopher Reeve that can't move at all and use a straw to push their chair, all the way to guys like me that, I can stand independently for about 10 seconds. I just can't move my hands very well, and I don't have much strength in my lower body. So you're going to find the biggest variance in disability when you talk to quadriplegics. No 2 quads are the same. Look at Jim McLaren. He was a quad as well, but it was very different. You look at him and you put me right next to him, and you wouldn't think that we had anything in common physically, but we were both quads.
So by your senior year of high school, you were back swimming. You were on the swim team, swimming with the able-bodied guys.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot in the book. I broke my neck on a Saturday on May 11th. And on the Monday, I had surgery to fix my neck. On the Tuesday, my high school swim coach, Mark Raitt, showed up to the hospital to pay a visit. And he told me in that hospital room, he said, I don't care what it takes. I need you back on the swim team next season. And that to me, it clicked me into what the heck am I going to do with my life I just need to get back on the swim team. And that's when the road back to sport began, was 3 days after I was injured. And that came from the motivation of my coach.
And swimming again and being part of a team, how important was that for the recovery?
Instrumental. I don't think I would have recovered had I not had that goal in mind, and I would have not progressed to where I am today had I not had sport. This is 96, 97. We had to fight to get me to be in regular classes in school because they wanted me to stay away. They wanted to put me away. And my parents fought to make sure that I was in regular classes, and my coach fought to make sure that I was on a regular team. There was a lot of adversity there.
What was the lowest moment for you?
Man, the lowest moment didn't come until about 3 years ago, where I was working in a job that I wasn't happy. I was living in a place that was just so hard to afford. And I wasn't in sport, I was really overweight. All I did was work, and I wasn't having fun. And, this brings me to a conversation that you and I specifically had at the San Diego Triathlon Challenge. And you looked at me, you've known me since I was a kid. You looked at me and said, Joe, you need to start doing something. Let's get you a hand cycle. Let's get you out there. And as soon as I got back into sport and I started training again, man, I came back to life. And it made me realize, and that's part of, with this book thing, why they came to me, that it made me realize that I can't ever let sport go again. You just can't. You gotta push through it. Even now, while I'm dealing with some of these symptoms from having COVID in March, I've got to keep the sport in my life.
Talk a little bit about that you didn't even realize you had COVID.
Yeah, so I was completely asymptomatic, and my mother had it, and she had, mild to moderate symptoms. She was coughing, she felt horrible. My brother, the same, no symptoms. And, after my mom had recovered from it, if you want to call it that, my brother and I and my mom were all feeling the same fatigue and body aches and brain fog. And I found out a couple of weeks ago because I had an antibody test with my doctor that let me know that I did in fact have it at some point, which explained all the body aches and the fatigue that I've been dealing with.
And a couple of years ago when you decided to get back into sport, right, and get into hand cycling, how has that journey been? Because you went, 2019, you went to Super Frog Triathlon, which is at Imperial Beach Pier where you were paralyzed.
Yeah.
So you were back in that water. And I remember chatting with you. It was important for you to go back to the pier soon after your accident because you didn't want to be afraid of being there again. It was such a huge part of your life.
Yeah, the beach is my favorite place in the world. And the last thing I wanted with this injury for me was to have a roadblock mentally to prevent me from going to my favorite place. So as soon as I was strong enough, it was part of my recovery. I just started pushing my chair around the neighborhood, and we lived 5 blocks from the beach, actually about 10 blocks from the beach, because we lived right on the estuary, right? So I couldn't just go straight up to the beach. I had to go around the natural preserve in Imperial Beach. I started to push, and the goal was to just get there and back, and it was 2 miles round trip. So as soon as I was strong enough to do it, I was doing it every day, and I'd go watch the sunset every single day to normalize it. And then with Super Frog, that was just a coming home because it was my hometown. All my friends and family were out there supporting. The swim was just north of the pier, right? 50 feet from ground zero for me. So it wasn't my first time back in that water, but it was definitely a special moment last year.
Well, and that people don't realize it, but that swim is always brutal. There's always big surf. The water's usually cold. But I remember when you came to San Diego Triathlon Challenge for the very first time. I think that might have been the first time you were back in the ocean since your
100%.
accident.
Yep. There's a picture of it right here. I don't know if you can see it. That's this right here is with Alan Boissard, Allison Terry, Melanie Ben, and I, when we had just gotten out. Allison swam with me as my guide swimmer, and Alan swam with Melanie because Melanie and I were teammates training with Alan. And that was 99. That was my first time back in the ocean.
And I remember, I think that was the morning where Jeffrey and I were right next to, we were at La Jolla Cove, and we're putting on San Diego Triathlon Challenge. So we're dealing with logistics of the day. I think it's like 4:30 in the morning. And we're right there just chatting, and you roll up and you've got a banana. And as a quadriplegic, you can't just use your fingers to peel it.
Yeah.
So you took that banana and basically bashed it against the railing and peeled it with your teeth.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey and I were sitting there with goosebumps, realizing, screw the logistics of the day. The importance of this day is giving people like Joe the hope and opportunity that they need to stay in a game of life through sport.
That's the epitome of CAF to me. I look at what you and what Jeffrey and what Rick did for your friend. It was all about you guys just helping your friend and then realizing a lot more people need help and you guys had the power to do it. Most people wouldn't have jumped at that, but you guys did, and you've changed the lives of people around the world, all because you wanted to help. And that's an incredible thing to say for you.
So we're talking like a year later or less than a year later after that, you're at your first Paralympic Games in Sydney. So here you were jumping back in the ocean for the first time, and less than a year later, you're in Sydney swimming in the Paralympics. How special was that opportunity?
Yeah, so, it was my first time back in the ocean in 99, in October. In June of 99, I'd gone to my first USA Swimming National Championships and took American records in every event that I competed in.
Yeah.
So it was, it was a day one thing. I mean, I broke my neck on May 11th, and by May 13th, I decided I was moving forward and getting back into swimming somehow, some way. And the 2000 Paralympics, that was an accumulation of all the work that we had put in those 4 years, and getting involved with CAF, and it really, I was a good swimmer in my arena prior to going to CAF, but that first time I went to see the Challenge Athletes Foundation's race and participate in it, and I got to meet guys like Carlos Moleda, who's, he's one of my mentors that I really look up to, and meet Jim McLaren and Rudy. I have pictures here right now too. They're in a box, and I'm going to put them up of what their first time Rudy and I met. Yeah,
I'm right here.
Yeah. I mean, I meet all these incredible athletes, Sarah Reinerstein, and all these, incredible athletes. I realized how hard they were going, and I realized I wasn't going hard enough. So that was a game changer for me to get me to Sydney.
So, and you go to Sydney, and then Athens, you get 7th in the 50 free and 9th in the 50 back, and in the 100 free. So now all of a sudden you're smelling the podium. That's there's a difference between just going and now being a factor.
Yeah,
that was pretty important for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the finals all 3 games. I couldn't get myself onto the podium, and I actually did better in Sydney than I did in Athens. I was very sick in Athens, and I just powered through. There was no way I wasn't going to swim, but I was dealing with I was seriously ill. So in Athens, it was just a matter of getting through. And then in Beijing, that's when I really hit my milestones. Still didn't podium, but I was like 6/100ths of a second out of 3rd place, and I was 5th. That it was the closest race in Paralympic history for my class for the 50 free. So, and I set all American records in Beijing too. And that's when I decided to hang up my hat and leave at the best that I could have done. I felt like Beijing was it. So I felt like it was time for me to move on.
The cool thing is when you first get into this stuff, the fields aren't very deep. Then all of a sudden, you start getting a lot of athletes who are, in your category, who are swimming fast, which, hey, everybody wants to be in a podium. But the cool thing is that there's a lot of depth, right? It's good for the sport. I remember when we were trying to get Rudy into the Paralympic Games, right? We couldn't get enough people. We had to find people around the world in his category to get him in.
Yeah.
So for you, the fact that you had depth, how special was that? Just seeing all these other guys who were dealing with you what you were dealing with, and they were there doing the same thing you were.
So the cool thing with my class, I'm an S4, or I was an S4. They've redone the classes like 4 years ago. So in the S4 class in these games, when you get to the finals, it was the same 8 guys in 3 Paralympics. So we knew each other, and there was we were competing against each other, but we all had a great mutual respect. And I remember in Beijing when we all hit that wall, and we all went our best times in Beijing. All 8 of us hit the wall and looked at the thing, and we were all trying to figure out who won because it was all so close. Much like what you see in the Olympics in the 50 free, we all looked and we all saw our times, and all of us were pumping our fists because we were all proud of ourselves. And then we were all looking at each other and congratulating each other because we all knew not only our times, we knew our competitors' times, and we knew how fast we'd all gone, and it was a really, really special moment.
So I know that
my life.
One of the goals you have is you want to be the first quadriplegic to finish an Ironman at some point. So obviously you've been dealing with COVID, but now you're back at it. How tough is this challenge going to be?
A lot of people set goals to prove other people wrong. I set this goal to prove myself wrong because at the beginning of this journey, I didn't think I could do it. This is no joke. It's 140.6 miles. You've done it.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart, and it's very hard. I'm training with Nexus Endurance with Carlos Mileta and Ralph Lynn-Schulten. So we're starting light because I am out of shape from everything I've gone through in the last 6 months. So we're just starting with, a few times a week on the bike, a few times a week in the gym, once a week in the pool right now. In 3 years from now, I'm going to be able to hear Mike Riley tell me I'm an Ironman, and that's what keeps me on track.
What's your favorite CAF moment?
Favorite CAF moment? There's a couple of them. So one is when we did this singles auction and you auctioned me off, and I was like 22. That was hilarious. That was one of my favorites just because it was fun. And it was one of the fun things when we were a new organization trying to raise money. It was just something that somebody came up with and we did. My all-time favorite CAF moment was watching Rudy win in Athens. I was there when he broke the world record in the 200 IM for the first time and won gold. And I've been very close with Rudy his entire time at CAF. I was his big brother on the team for the Paralympic team in 2002, 2004. We were roommates together. And just to see him accomplish that and know that I know intimately everything he had gone through to get himself to that moment, that's not only one of my greatest CAF moments, but it's one of the greatest moments of my life.
So where can people get your book?
You can reach out to me directly on Instagram at Joe McCarthy Swim. And I'm selling them directly. I only have 500 copies to sell, so I've got about 400 left. The book's only been on sale for a week now, so I'd say I've done pretty good so far. But you can absolutely reach out to me, and proceeds are going to the Challenged Athletes Foundation for my fundraiser this year. So I'm very excited about that.
Hey, Joey, thank you so much for being such an awesome representative of CAF and just being such a great role model for all of our athletes. And actually, that role of being that guy for the next Joe McCarthy, somebody who's paralyzed and doesn't know what their life holds for them. How important is that for you to be that guy for them?
I'm looking for him. Every time I meet somebody who's, hey, I just found this kid that he's just been injured. I meet guys and girls all the time through my network of, hey, I know my friend, I get LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Hey, my friend's son just got injured. Can you reach out? Happens all the time. It's sad that it happens all the time, but it does. And we're here to make sure that they can rebound, right? It's not about the shot. We're here to make sure that their second shot is the best they can do. So yeah, all the time I'm looking for that guy.
Love it. Joey, thank you, buddy, for taking time. Always a pleasure to catch up. I'm glad you're healthy again.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
This has been Challenge Athletes Live, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in.